Hello friends, chosen ones. Welcome to this video where we're gonna talk about the path before shifting or before awakening and what it means to be a chosen one and kind of what it's not. And we're gonna dive in a bit deeper onto the history of humanity going back the last 500,000 years. And there'll be some other nuggets in there for sure. So let's get started. There's a lot of flies around here. I'm out here in Åre. This is where I live currently, and well, not right here, but not far from here, a short hike away, up in a nearby mountain, hiking a bit and showing you guys around. So we're gonna walk here on a scooter, or we say scooter in Swedish, but I mean snow machine path. Here's the snow machine path here. Which is wonderful to hike on in winter, and especially in summer it's easier. So, welcome to Mother Nature. I feel like the energies here are very grounding, very rooting. You know, you can feel it when you come back here. I traveled 1,000 kilometers south from Norway, where I made the last video, to get back home, and it's the trees are taller. And it's greener here. It's feels a bit more like summer, although it's a little bit of a chill day today. So let's get started. So chosen one, it's a kind of a new phrase for me actually, and all this starseed stuff. Oh yeah, I should say my name is Morten. I forgot that, and I'm a starseed. I'm a mystic. I'm a shaman. And I have ties to Arcturus, and I'm in the tradition of Marilyn and Mary Magdalene. So, chosen ones. Chosen one is a new concept to me, and but I'm sure it's been around for quite a while. But there's a lot of confusion around it, and I got some confused comments about it, so I better explain it better. Right. So, a chosen one is not someone who is superior to others in terms of status, you know. It's not about ego at all. As I've talked about before, I talked about we need to have balanced egos, that there's nothing wrong with having an ego and looking at the world from an ego perspective, because that's what we are, that's what we have. And of course you can open that up and awaken yourself, but you always sort of come back into this, well, unless you leave, of course, and transition, but if you stay in the human form, you're gonna have an ego, more or less, you know. So we shouldn't condemn ego, but either way, chosen one has nothing to do with ego, or maybe in the sense of balancing ego, yes, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about basically someone who has chosen themselves, see? So primarily, to be a chosen one is to choose to be that for yourself. And the way you choose it is by choosing to change your frequency, to align, and to say yes to this adventure, this mission that it means to be a chosen one. And a chosen one can be a starseed, or it can be someone who has an activated DNA from past civilizations like Atlantis or Lemuria. It can be other things too. It can be what we call walk-ins, or souls or spirit that have come into a body, so sort of like a soul exchange that happens sometimes. And there are other ways, but the key here is it's something you choose, right? To a degree, right? So then we come to the next point, which is once you choose this, then you start to remember, okay? So you become more conscious. You start, I mean, first of all, you might go through this dark night of the soul experience where you become more conscious, and basically you realize how dark the world is, how unconscious the world is. And that can be, that is a shocker, you know, because especially in childhood, usually it's pretty Disney fairy tale like, you know, and then we realize like, wait a minute, what's going on? There's all this corruption everywhere, and people are not happy, and why are they not happy, and so forth. So there is that sort of calling, you know, to you start seeing things around you, and for a lot of us it happens already in childhood, but then as we mature and grow up, we see it more, and we get more nuance, and we start to understand things better, and also who we are. So yes, so what then happens is you start to remember. So you can remember more about the past, the ancient history, or more about who you have been in the past, past lives. And they might not be literal past lives, but they are definitely like soul connections, and they are important, and they tell you a lot about yourself. So those are very valuable, and they can connect, a lot of these things can connect into this life, like interests or passions or traumas even, yeah, to some degree. So yeah, you start remembering, and then you also start to realize that there is something greater outside you, which I refer to as God, but you could say source, or you could say higher self, or even the universe. It all points to the same thing, basically. And yeah. So you start to develop that relationship, and somewhere along the path too, you will start to realize your power. So your power in creating this reality, in being a conscious creator, a deliberate creator. And that's also part of this awakening, and that's really a lot what Abraham Hicks is about, is to be creating consciously your life, but in harmony with this higher intelligence, this divine intelligence, which is infinitely intelligent and knows everything about you and wants the best for you, and is helping you to get everything you want. Even it might not seem like that every time, but it's because we're out of alignment, see? So when you're out of alignment, then it seems like we're all alone, and there's all this darkness, but you just want to start aligning yourself day after day, little by little, and you'll see you're not alone. You never were alone. There's many beings watching over you all the time, good beings, well-meaning beings, and the more you allow into them, and you learn to hear them, and it can be subtle. It doesn't have to be direct communication at first. It can be little messages, or it can be a video that you find on YouTube like this one, or it can be a song or a book, or someone you meet who tells you some wisdom, or it can be a lot of things, or even just being in nature and you're interacting with a bird or a deer or something else. So these things remind you of who you really are, and it's an incredible thing, and it's really hard to summarize in just one video like this. But you can watch my other videos too, and you'll get even a more expanded understanding of these things. But I've been into this consciousness expansion for like 18 years or something. There's a lot, and it's still going on for me every day. And now that I shifted, it's like it's accelerating. So I'm getting huge downloads because I have such a clear I can see the nuance, and I can see the distinctions, and there's another word, but I lost it. Anyhow, so it's very easy for me to know, like, yeah, this feels true, and this is maybe not, and so I can make distinctions, right? I make distinctions pretty quick now, quicker than I ever have, and that's why I can talk about it too, because I get a really good feeling. I'm very intuitive and very in touch with that intuition. We have a little stream down here. I don't know if you can see it. Really good water here. Like, I always drink straight from here. I've never been sick or anything. On the contrary, I feel really, really good. Like this is there's nothing above here. It's just forest and mountains. I've hiked all the way up, so it's very pure water. Of course you could get some dirt or something, but very, very small chance of that. But and there's something also with the flavor of the water here. It's like rich. It's almost like drinking a broth, like a little bit, not totally like that, but a little bit like that. Especially when you're hiking down in the valleys, in the really nature reserve areas. The water there is fantastic. Anyhow, so you start remembering who you are, you start aligning with the God or source or higher self, and you you are in a sense chosen also by the higher ones, because you said yes to it, right? So then you also become a chosen for that reason. So, and the chosen is superior in a sense, not in an ego sense, not in a status sense. We're all equal in a status sense, but in the sense of fearlessness, in the sense of resilience. You know, if you're a chosen one and you tune to this video, then that's a beautiful synchronicity. And I can feel into you right now that, you know, and I know from my own experience that you have been through a lot of darkness, and it's hard to understand it at first, and that's part of awakening, is to break through it and to see it with fresh eyes, and to realize like it's not, you're not the source of that darkness, but it's something that's imposed onto you. You know, and that's a healing and a huge relief when you really start to realize that for yourself in your own life through all the different examples of interactions that you've ever had, which happened to me when I shifted, and I was so relieved because I realized how good I'm doing and that I have really been a force for good like my whole life. I've done my best, but also like I have that in me somehow. So that's part of being a starseed chosen one, or you know, just carrying this frequency. We're really, essentially what we are is we're frequency holders for like a higher consciousness world, a new, sort of new earth, the way we're, you know, it's described, new earth. We could call it that. It's an easy way to distinguish between old and new. So the old earth would be the fearful earth where everyone feels sort of unworthy to different degrees, where we have hierarchies, competition, where everything is about struggling and efforting and survival. It's an ego, like a suppressed ego kind of world where everyone tries to inflate their egos as much as possible, but no one is really truly satisfied or happy. No one is really connected to source. All these things are being suppressed, you know, they're not even being talked about. And yeah, so, and you could see now around the world, like for the last 10,000 years, we are the most conscious that we've been, probably, well, I don't know 10,000, but at least we say last maybe 2,000. If you talk about the medieval period and so forth, like we're definitely coming out of that with a much lighter energy. So either way, yes. So what I've been feeling is like this feeling all my life that I'm not quite from here, or not, maybe not that I'm not from here, but I don't resonate with this place. Like it was very strange to me, the feeling I had in my family when I grew up. I mean, we had a lot of good times and good moments, and I love my parents and my sisters and everything, but there's like this feeling of not quite belonging, of like, it's like a strangeness kind of feeling. And that got amplified a lot when I started school. Like that was very, very strange energy to me, because it just became a lot about ego expression and bullying and forcing to do stuff. It was just tough, you know. And that comes from not being from this sort of density, okay? Earth is getting less dense, but it is still quite dense. So we talk about 3D, 4D, 5D and all that, that's density. And then there's also dimensions, but density is the headline, you know, and the dimension is sort of, you know, I don't think I'm not an expert with that, but anyways, density. So basically we're talking about the frequency of your vibration, your energy. So your frequency can be in different places, right? So the ETs tend to be really, really high, so high that most of us can't even see them or interact with them. And you know, if you go past to the medieval times, it used to be very, very, very low, you know, very, very unconscious basically. So it's the low and high, we're not saying good or bad, you know, we're just saying it's different kinds of experiences. And but yeah, typically, you know, lesser density might have more suffering, and you know, and higher, I mean, lesser density is less suffering. I mean, you're higher frequency, so lower yeah. Too many words. Making this too complicated. It's not complicated. So we come to humanity's history, because this is what I wanted to get to before I got a little lost there. Here's a nice little view of the stream way down there. There's an animal trail here. You can see the hoof prints going down. It's like a little staircase. and it goes on in there in the forest. So, humanity's history goes back 500,000 years, like I mentioned in the last video, but since I've done some more research and updated my memory, refreshed my memory quite a bit, so I wanted to tell you the story of humanity as best as I know it right now. So, humanity was created 500,000 years ago, and not through just evolution. There was evolution, but our ancestor at that time was a primate, but we didn't go through this evolution of learning to walk and all that stuff. It was rather abrupt evolution where we had the Anunnaki that I mentioned in the past video. There's a fraction, so a small group in the Anunnaki came from the Orion star system, and they came to Earth because they wanted a kind of gold to bring to their planet, I think, and so they needed some laborers, basically slaves, to do the work for them, and those primates, they probably weren't intelligent enough, or I don't know, dense enough, or however you want to call it. They were not what they were looking for, so they took those and they injected part of their own DNA into those, and that became us. Okay, so that you have Adam and Eve. There is a place in South Africa which is called Adam's calendar. I think you could even Google it. I think it's even on Google Maps. It's a stone circle that has been identified as the birthplace of the first humans. So that's pretty cool. And there's South Africa is because that's where most of the gold was, and I think still is today. So that's where they gathered. And yeah, so 500,000 years ago we were created as a kind of genetic experiment, and this fraction of the Anunnaki, this little group, they were quite unconscious in a way. They didn't really understand what they were doing, but they tried to suppress our consciousness by different means, but especially through DNA manipulation. And they also did other things, and they created also social structures like religions and hierarchies, so that this stuff is ancient, what we're still battling with today to some degree. And so we had about, from what I've heard, I mean, this is really ancient history, and we will be given the whole thing once open contact begins. So that's when these extraterrestrials that are helping us, when they're coming to Earth and actually interacting with us physically, they're going to give us our whole story in a sort of kind of video format, is what I got heard. But we'll see. That day is approaching, though. Within the next few years, we're going to start having open contact, and I'm going to have to talk more about that in the video, otherwise this video is going to get super long, but that's also a fascinating thing, so I'll get back to that. So when we have open contact, then we will get all this history pretty much like a video, so we can all know exactly what happened to us and what we've been through and so forth. Whoa. And yeah, so 500,000 years ago we were slaves, and that lasted for, very roughly 200,000 years. So for 200,000 years there weren't really much change to our situation. At first we were used to mine gold, and then I'm not sure what we were used for, but probably as laborers for other things. And after 200,000 years, then the Earth frequency became so imbalanced, so Mother Nature basically sent out some kind of distress call, that this is like an energetic distress call that was picked up by other ET races, and they started to worry about us, and they started interacting with each other and deciding like, okay, we need to help these guys out, because basically when free will is being suppressed to a very deep degree, then other beings they are actually permitted to interact. There are all these galactic rules and laws and things going on. But then they are allowed, and so they agreed to help us, and these are the Arcturians, the Pleiadians, and the ones from Sirius. I'm not sure what you call those, but the beings from Sirius. Syrians, maybe. And I'm sure others too. This is just what I got to me from ChatGPT just now, but I'm doing my best here. So you can research these things much deeper on your own. I'm just giving you the basic outline, okay? So they started helping humanity about 300,000 years ago, let's say, and from that we got some of the first more free and spiritual civilizations, and the most famous one being Atlantis, but before that we had one that's called Lemuria. So Lemuria might have started around 200,000-300,000 years ago, and this was based in the Pacific Ocean. At that time the water level was much lower, so there was a huge landmass in the middle of the Pacific, sort of where Hawaii is. And that huge landmass was basically Lemuria, and they were very much in touch with nature. They're very heart-centered. I've heard that the heart chakra of the earth is actually still there in Hawaii, so there's a very rooted energy, very heart-connected, nature-focused, so you could say feminine. So Lemuria was a very sort of feminine energy. They were very in touch with nature. And then came Atlantis. So Atlantis is in the Atlantean Ocean, especially around the Caribbean is what I got, like, and along the coasts. And what happened is Atlantis became more masculine in a sense, more technologically interested, but in like crystalline technology, and in reaching out into the cosmos and doing all these kind of things. I think initially they were really in balance. It seemed for a long time, maybe like 100,000 years or more, they were in balance and they were, in harmony. So, but then what happened is the Atlanteans, they got into trouble. Maybe they had some negative influence from outside, or maybe from both inside and outside. There's some ET civilizations that might not be so conscious, and then there are other beings on Earth and humans and so on and so forth. Who knows? It's very ancient history we're talking about now, so you have to take this with a pinch of salt, or a grain of salt. But it's amazing to think about it, and we're getting to the point of why I'm talking about all this. So 12,000 years ago, like I mentioned in the past video, then Atlantis got destroyed, and before that Lemuria sort of slowly just faded away. So it sort of started to, those beings, they started to be more non-physical basically. They still hang around, but they left a lot of information for us to pick up in forms of crystal and earth energy and sacred places and stuff like that. So Lemurians, they're very much still here. And I've heard they've buried gigantic crystals in certain places that we're going to find as we become more conscious. When the time is ready, we're going to dig up these humongous crystals, and there's going to be all these memories encoded, and it's going to help us, a lot. So yeah, and then the Atlanteans, they had this catastrophe because they had this fraction that wanted to start to suppress humanity again. So again, mutations with DNA and using DNA to create, slaves and these kind of things. That's what I think we're seeing in Egypt with all these different humans with different animal heads, and there's all this in the myths too. So it comes from something actually real. I think those beings were real, and that those were part of that Atlantean thing that went really wrong. And so the earth energies again became out of balance, and Mother Earth, when this happens, she will revolt, and she will call in comets, and she will create earthquakes and volcano eruptions and flood the world, and all of this that happened. So it's the basis for this is in consciousness and intentions and getting really lost, as is everything. Any kind of disease or anything we even see today is also everything is based in consciousness, because that's what we are fundamentally. Anyways, a little break here. So we're reaching the open sky again here. So you see Mother's abundance all around us here. This is the river that goes just past my house. It runs along down here. And yeah, it's a beautiful place to be. Right, so the whole point of talking about this is that I feel the connection through this suppression of consciousness. Like, I can feel it throughout my life, in my body, like this ancient history of humanity. So even if I'm not from here before this life, or before a few lives ago, I feel like I've had several lives in recent human history, or maybe many lives. I'm still opening up that door, so we'll see if it comes out. But yeah, so and at the same time I feel this kind of not belonging feeling, like my frequency is something else, and I have a hard time relating with most people. Like the things I'm talking about here, I think most people that I've known from the past, they wouldn't really relate or understand, maybe, or maybe some do, I don't know. But that's how I felt all my life. Like whenever I tried to talk about anything, just not even about these kind of things, but you know, about meditation and consciousness, like people is like, oh, give me a break. And that's been challenging, but it's also like that's part of being a chosen, and I'm sure since you're still here and watching this video, you're feeling something similar, you know. And so it's normal in a sense when you're a starseed, because you have the DNA in you, you're living the DNA, you have this body, and you have this family, the ancestry, all of that is there, and you're, as a light worker, you know, when you awaken and you bring the light to this world, you actually help your ancestors and you help humanity. There's many, many levels of unconsciousness and social relations and all these things. So it's a beautiful thing, you know. My ancestors have started talking to me a lot, and they're very, very happy for what I'm doing, and they're very encouraging. And also deceased relatives and so on. I'm talking to a lot of these beings, and it's very interesting, you know, because as you awaken, you realize how deep these things go, and it's really infinite, you know. There's no bottom. So yes, so if you recognize yourself in my story and what I'm saying in the humanity story, and these feelings, and then you pretty much can know for sure that you are definitely chosen one. You're definitely a starseed, or someone with these connections from Lemuria or Atlantis or other. There's also been other civilizations, I'm sure, many other groupings and things that we're going to learn more about in the next few years for sure. Especially when we get that open contact, it's going to open up a lot of things for us. So yes, we're also coming to this earth splitting. The earth is splitting, and that's a frequency thing. So yeah, there's this thing in the Bible about the 144,000 chosen ones, and it's been reflected in other places. So what I'm receiving is that this is probably not counting individual beings, okay? I think there are millions of chosen ones here who are here to awaken and transition and transition with this world that wants to transition, yeah? So what we're doing when we're mass awakening is that we're changing the frequency so much of the collective that we're gonna see big transformations in society and all around the world, you know, in many ways. So when we talk about earth splitting, we're talking about the frequency splitting, okay? So the difference between the most conscious humans and the least conscious humans, not talking about good or better here, okay, just vibrational, will be so big, the difference will be so big that we will not really be interacting with each other anymore, you know, eventually. I mean, this might happen over generations, I'm not sure, but it seems like it's going to happen faster because we're reaching some kind of culmination point now where like the difference is so vast that like things are going to start clicking in. And I think when we get open contact and these kind of things, it's definitely going to be, yeah, things are going to change. And just like they changed for me, like when I shifted, I really felt this once in a lifetime kind of clicking into place thing where I became someone else. I became the one that I was destined to be and that I always wanted to be. So there's a little stream coming down. I love this area here. I've brought my kids here for the last year to play and to drink the water and play, and there are a lot of berry bushes there on the other side. So we can pick blueberries and lingonberries. It's wonderful. Yes. So here's the more little bridge going down. Oh yeah, there you are. Sorry if my filming is a bit out of the, yeah. All right, so yeah, so the earth splitting, it's dramatic in a sense, but it's not, I don't think it's like this all of a sudden thing. It's a gradual thing, and it's Bashar talks about this very clearly, like every second you're moving through billions of dimensions, and that's the only way that you could have movement or anything happening, you know, basically is, this is like one of the fundamental things of consciousness, like things are moving sort of like a movie, but it's much more advanced. It's like billions of times instead of 24 or 30 or 60 times per second. So, and so there are literally billions of versions of Earth. You know, there are Earths that have been destroyed, there are Earths that are blossoming and that are much more conscious than the one we are in, and so forth. And it's all about each individual of us tuning to that frequency. But what we're doing as chosen ones is we're spearheading. Okay, so we're taking the blunt of the force. We are transmuting the darkest darkness, and we're leading the way to make it easier for other chosen ones as well. They'll be chosen at some point, and they'll also go through this process. Or some of the people we're interacting with now will maybe not be chosen, so they'll not choose to be chosen, so they will then split off into another reality, you know. But we're always doing that, we're constantly doing that, because there are many infinite versions of each and every soul and every person, you know. So this is trippy and it's complicated, and don't worry about it, you know. But if these things are fascinating to you and interesting, you could always do your own research. Bashar talks a lot about these things. Abraham not so much. So I would say go check out Bashar. He'll explain a lot to you. So yeah. Here we are now. It's opening up here. So these mountains behind me here, that's the ski resort of Åre. So this is a beautiful place to be in Sweden. A lot of good infrastructure and a lot of beautiful nature. It's a nice combo, you know. All right, so I definitely feel like I'm a chosen one in that sense, and starseed and so forth. And I have had a lot of interactions and memories and dreams and trips and all kinds of things that show me that, yeah. And you know, at the ultimate level, all of this is imagination and simulation, and we're just having fun, right? So that's also something to awaken to, that this is all a game. This is all play, you know. We're all playing here with all the flowers and the trees and the birds and the stories we tell, you know. The key to everything is just to be present and to be in the moment and to enjoy yourself. So all of this is for enjoyment, you know. If you're watching this and you're feeling scared or frustrated, or you're like, I don't get it, then forget about it, you know. Then this is not for you. Then this might be for you later. Then come back when it feels exciting, you know, because this should excite you and make you fascinated about life, you know. And if it doesn't, then you're not ready. So don't worry about it. That's fine. That's fine. Again, that's a contrasting experience to show you what you want, what you don't want for now, and then you just move towards what feels good. So this is something I wanted to talk about in the last video that I just briefly mentioned, but the emotional guidance system, right? So let your emotions guide you, literally. What feels good is good. And you know, there's a lot of fear about that, and about like being manipulated and so forth. But when you're really present and you really feel what you're feeling in the moment, and yeah, to some degree you have to learn to feel it, you know. Like sometimes, like what is passion and what is anxiety can feel similar, but with practice you'll tell the difference. So you have to be a little careful there to make sure that you're being honest with yourself, because you're programmed to follow things that are not good for you. So in that sense, you know, your understanding of your emotions might need to be tweaked and fine-tuned, but the only way to do that is to start paying attention to your emotions and let your emotions guide you, because that's really your highest connection to source. And you always have emotions, and that means you're always connected to source. So even when you're feeling really, really bad, that is basically source telling you, I'm not feeling bad. That's why you feel bad, because I feel so good. So now you have to tune yourself to what source sees in that same situation. You know, if someone died, or you lost something, or whatever tragedy it might be, you know, the source is always seeing the good in everything, and you can too. So, you know, and it might take time, you know, like I'm not saying like, even for me, like I'm still processing the death of my daughter, you know, 7 months ago, and there's a video gonna come on that next week, I think. But it's much easier when you see the higher perspective, you know. It's everything gets much easier, and I follow my emotional guidance on that too. And my daughter is here, and she keeps talking to me, she keeps guiding me, and sometimes it's nice to cry and to feel what you feel, you know. That's also part of it. Even after you awaken and stuff, awaken doesn't make you less, it makes you more. So you become more intuitive and more sensitive, and all your senses, you know, your sight, your hearing, like the way I see colors now, like I look at these flowers here. I don't know if you can see these beautiful yellow. To me, this looks almost like a neon color. Like it's crazy. Like it's almost like it's radiating. That's the level of perception. And that's how I used to see when I took like a little bit of mushrooms or a little bit of DMT. Then that's what I would see. And now I see it like that all the time. And it's interesting because with inanimate objects, it's not so obvious. But with flowers and plants, even like just green plants, it's like they're, what's the name? Bioluminescent? You know, they like UV light, they just shine, you know. But yeah, this is a beautiful meadow. All right, so yeah, start tuning into your emotional guidance system, and that's the closest you'll ever be to source, to God. And that's the main way to guide, you know. And when you really start feeling into these things, then you can pick up on things that are not good for you really early. Like it might just be a you know, feeling, don't go out today, or don't stay inside, or go out today. Or don't pick up the phone, or don't bother, you know, like all these different things, the little hints, and you just feel like a bit of doesn't feel right, you know. And when you start to really pay attention, you're aware about it, and you follow it, then you get all the benefits. So yeah, start tapping into that. All right, I love you guys. Thank you so much for hanging on to the end. If you wouldn't mind subscribing, liking, and posting a comment down below, questions or reflections. I would love to hear what all this information does to you. And of course, share it with a friend if there's someone who you think would be really interested and fascinated about this. So yeah, thank you again for being here. Ciao.